people on this planet Earth that we share our world with that, you know what, when they even just think about saying something on camera or anywhere in the public eye. Now, if they're saying something on the toilet or what in the shower, that's fine. But if they think, I'm going to go out on television and say this thing, just every time they even conceive of such an operation, I just get pissed off. You know? It just fucking grinds my gears. Who am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about idiot number 1 and idiot number 2. So I saw this clip floating around on Twitter of Bill Maher having Elon Musk on the show to discuss the woke mind virus and the end of civilization. Let's watch.
So I think a lot of people thought when you bought Twitter that this is kind of an outlier. Like, how does this, what doesn't fit with these other things you're doing? I never thought that. Because I think you're dealing with big civilizational issues and problems, and I was right on your page. I think Twitter is one of them. I mean, you have talked about this woke mind virus.
Yes.
Okay, literally within 10 seconds, Bill Maher says Twitter is at the apex forefront of the civilization and the course of where our civilization is going. And the woke mind virus. This is all within 10 seconds, by the way. You are very concerned with the end of civilization, as am I. By the way, Twitter is the most important thing, and the woke mind virus. What do you think is the most important thing when it comes to the end of civilization? Resources? Fighting the billionaire class? Learning to love one another again as a species? No, it's Twitter and the woke mind virus.
Really apocalyptic terms. Yeah. You should explain why you don't think it's hyperbole to say things like it's pushing civilization towards suicide. First of all, what is the woke mind virus? And if we don't deal with this, nothing else can get done. Tell me why you think that.
Yeah, so...
Now, I just want to say this. I consider myself to be a little bit of an opiner. I consider myself to be, some would say, a philosopher. I consider myself to be someone who thinks about the world often. And you know what I fucking hate? As all of those things? Is when people like this take all of those kind of concepts and make them look really stupid and cringy to everyone else. Elon Musk styles himself as a philosophical thought leader, probably the most important person who's ever existed. This is his mission. He said this. He literally thinks he is on a quest, not necessarily a quest from God, but a quest to save humanity. That's what he thinks. And so when he goes like this, and when he's going like this, and he's doing all these these gestures that make it look like he's seriously just thinking about the universe, it drives me up the fucking wall, because this guy is saying the same shit Bill Gates has been saying. We need to depopulate. But why? Why would we need to depopulate? Think about it. So that billionaires can keep their cash. But depopulation, there's different ways to go about it. You can have slow and steady depopulation due to a pandemic that you refuse to even acknowledge that's real. Right? That's one way to depopulate. You could depopulate through expanding colonialism, getting rid of certain populations and nations, and just bringing regular people, as they like to call, into these locations. You know, you got to civilize it a little bit. You could depopulate by interplanetary exploration. But the point really, ultimately, behind these billionaires and their bullshit is not necessarily they want to reduce the number, like as a raw number of humans on the planet, but they want to have control over as many, percentage-wise, of the humans. The number of humans is not as important as the percentage of which they have control over. So when people like this talk about the woke mind virus, and they talk about how people, good regular people, aren't having kids anymore, and all the savages are having kids. Because that's what they're gonna say. I don't know if they say it in this clip, but I've seen Elon Musk talk about it. Like, Japan's birth rates are really low, and like, you know, in the Middle East and in Africa, the birth rates are really high, and that's bad because Anyway, let's keep going.
I think we need to be very cautious about anything that is anti-meritocratic, and anything that...
Now, first of all, that's not a word. There is no word anti-meritocratic. That's not a word. I'm assuming what he means to say is anti-meritocratic, which means against meritocracy, which is literally... Now, again, I know it's a joke at this point, but we'll all have to live in this Twilight Zone type universe, is literally the exact opposite of what he's saying. What is, as he uses the term woke mind virus, what is he talking about? He's talking about a burgeoning consciousness in our country, a left-wing movement, if you will, of people having like an awakening about systemic and historical injustices. Now, where does that put them? Where do they go? Where do they direct that energy after they learn about this stuff? That's a different conversation. But that's what he's talking about, the woke mind virus. He's talking about people learning about the history of this country, right? If you learn that black people in this country were enslaved, they were literally property. Hell, women in this country were property as well. When you learn that, and then you realize this country did nothing at all to solve the issue, they threw the fucking key to the chains off a cliff and said, yo, get that key, and then maybe you'll be free. Other than that, you're on your own. That's essentially what this country did to an entire demographic. So when people learn about this, they rightfully go, hey, shouldn't we have some sort of, I don't know, reckoning with this historical fact? That an entire population is literally still paying for this? I'm a white person. I know you might not have known this. As with most people that are white, there are more people in white families that have homes, that have property, that have not just, you know, in the sense of like a location property, but things, valuables. White families, on average. Now again, I am poor as fuck. I've always been. But on average, white families have a history of generational wealth that is larger than black families. Most of it is in the form of land, homes, etc., but also in things like cars, things like old collectibles, antiques, lamps, all that shit. Imagine going to like a pawn shop with a fucking lamp that your grandma had, you find out it's a one of a kind, you get $800, right? So again, because guess what happened after black people were freed? If you want to use the word freed, by the way, which to me is a little bit of more of a white savior thing, but they got nothing. But wait, a bunch of black people actually managed to garner some amount of wealth and power after the slavery portion of our history. And a lot of that wealth and power was concentrated in areas like in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There is a place called, colloquially known as Black Wall Street. Black people were doing really well. What happened? Oh, a bunch of white racists from the KKK burned down every building and killed a bunch of motherfuckers. That's what happened when black people actually garnered wealth. There's a case in New York when the highway project was being started in the early-ish 20th century. How did they build those highways, especially in major metropolitan areas such as New York City? How could they find the room to build these major highways? Oh, you know what they did? They bulldozed all black neighborhoods, their houses. What they would do is they would go in under the guise of inspections, home inspections. They would destroy things without residents knowing. They would come back as government officials, say, oh, I'm sorry, your home has been condemned. You can't live here. It's too dangerous because, I don't know, someone broke an electric lining a couple months ago when they were doing an inspection. Then they would seize the property that's been condemned under clauses like eminent domain. So black people lost their houses. And this has happened at every generation where black people start to own. Now, again, I'm not saying no black person owns a house. I'm just talking about percentages here. This is dealing a devastating blow to an overwhelming percentage of the population as a whole, right? And again, what is all of this to say? That the woke mind virus is a substitute for people that know history and think, something's amiss here. So when this guy makes up words called, like, saying anti-meritocratic, he mixes America with meritocracy, which is a little bit of a giveaway on his mental thought process. And also, he doesn't really know how to pronounce words. But when he says that it's actually anti-meritocratic to want people to be on an even playing field, what he wants you to think is, I'm a fucking idiot and I love Elon Musk. That's what he wants you to think. People that want people to be on an even playing field, those are the ones that are actually against meritocracy. By the way, if you don't know what meritocracy means, it means everyone's on an even fucking playing field. So I know I'm only 40 seconds in here, but let's keep going.
That is, that results in the suppression of free speech. So
the woke mind virus is anti-Americatocratic, and it's about suppressing free speech. That's. You ever wonder, like, if you can measure, like, quantify, we're talking about get that shit and plot it on a number line, the gall of these motherfuckers that are on television. A billionaire, one of the most talked about people on the planet, who owns one of the largest social media websites, is talking about how people in his position have their free speech suppressed. Give me a fucking break. Give me a fucking break. Jesus fucking Christ.
You know, those are two of the aspects of the woke mind virus that I think are very dangerous.
So two aspects are suppression of free speech, which is not anything related. It's just completely adjacent in any fashion, right? And then you have anti-Americatocracy, or whatever the fuck he was trying to say, which is the exact opposite of what the woke mind virus, which, again, what that means, what he means to say is people learning about how this country treated black people and other minorities. That's what the woke mind virus is. That's what he's trying to say, but obviously he's going to use different terminology. This is, again, they're just lying. Like, I need you really to understand this shit. It's just lying. It's saying the exact opposite and hoping you're dumb enough to believe them. And there's a lot of people that are. And that's the thing with these billionaires, is they know that people in this country in this time period are so fucking stupid that you can sell them anything. You can sell people anything in this country. Yeah, the people that want a meritocracy, they're actually anti-Americatocratic or whatever, and they suppress free speech.
Is that it's often anti-meritocratic. You can't question things.
Did he say the same?
It's often anti-meritocratic.
He made the same. This guy can't say words. Now, again, I say this. Sometimes I struggle with words. I'm a little dyslexic, you know, when I'm reading something, it comes out wrong, whatever, it happens. But I mean, like, come on now. Like, you can't be using a word when you didn't even practice how to say it in the mirror. And you know this guy is really wanting to use this word. Anti-America, like, it's a buzzword, you know? It's like a word you fucking see at, like, a spelling bee, right? So he wants to get that out there. And you know why else he wants to use that word? Because he knows that the average listener doesn't know what it fucking means. And especially when he stumbles. When he says anti-America, cracker barrel, right? When he struggles saying the word, people can't even really look it up if they don't even know what the fucking word means, which just allows him to get the benefit of the doubt from stupid fucking minions, right? So again, now am I saying he's struggling to pronounce the word on purpose as like a even deeper ploy? No, I think he's just bad at pronouncing words. But what, you know? But here.
You can't question things. Even the questioning is.
again, it's a 1984 type situation we're dealing with. You can't question things, and
bad.
Even questioning things is bad. He's saying that about the people that are questioning our history in this country of how we treated black people. So people are opening up a history book, not one they found in school, by the way, because schools covered all this up, but they're opening a real history book. They're learning, oh shit, black people were enslaved. And then after the slavery period ended, whoa, I just read the text of the 13th Amendment, and it says that slavery is banned, except for as a punishment for a crime. And then after they banned slavery, they totally changed the criminal code. And then they started criminalizing things that black people do. I wonder, maybe I should ask people about this. And guess what happens? You get shit like in Florida, where you're not allowed to discuss any of it because it's critical race theory. Critical race theory. I need you really to understand these people are lying. If you don't, I know my audience typically probably understands this, but there might be passerbys here, looky-loos. When Elon Musk says anything, you have to assume it's a lie and that the opposite is true. Now, again, there are exceptions that prove the rule. But this guy is claiming that black people, because that's what woke means. Woke means black people. You can't say the black mind virus, but you can say the woke mind virus. So black people going, hey, wait a minute, we got really fucked over. Maybe we should actually get something in return for once. That's the woke mind virus, which says that you can't question things, even though the people that are in the group that you're defining as woke are the ones questioning things, and they're actually the only government legislation that's suppressing free speech is actually the people that he agrees with. Elon Musk endorsed Ron DeSantis, by the way. So Ron DeSantis banning critical race theory is actually in support of free speech because he's banning discussion of black people, and black people are the ones asking questions, but also they're not allowed to ask questions, but they say they can't ask questions, but they say you can't ask questions. By the way, I'm a billionaire. By the way, I just bought Twitter, but my free speech is suppressed. Let me think about this. I'm a real true thinker. I'm a thought leader, boy. Yeah. What the fuck, bro? We're only halfway through.
Another way to, almost synonymous would be cancel culture. And obviously people have tried to cancel you many times.
Many times.
Yeah, I mean,
every week.
Yeah, daughters go to college go to high school.
Cancel culture. We're going to look back in like 10 years and we're going to think to ourselves, did anyone actually believe that this shit happened? Literally, all he did was make a bunch of like fucking, look at me, I'm a philosopher, let me cross my legs, let me do this, let me scratch my chin, let me rub my eyeballs, let me scratch my armpit, let me pick my nose, I'm anti-democratic, and then, what did Bill Maher say? So true. So true. Nah, that's not what he said, but that's what he's thinking. Like Bill Maher's thinking, going like, wow, this is gold. This is gold. Yeah. Wow, this is gold. Yeah. Wow. That's what Bill Maher's thinking. But let's
every week.
Yeah. Daughters go to college go to high school in the Bay Area.
Again, this is another one of these like Silicon Valley, I'm way smarter than I actually am kind of gestures. Look at this one. You see this? Check this out. This is what he's doing. The one arm tuck. Right? The one arm tuck. You have to look up a lot. You notice this, by the way. Check this. You got to look up. You got to go like... Anti-America... Cancel culture.
And he was asking them, like, well, so who are the first few presidents of the United States? They could name Washington, and I said, well, what do you know about him? Well, he was a slave owner. What else?
Right. Exactly.
Nothing.
Right.
Like, okay, maybe you should know more.
So, first of all, Elon Musk is just making up a story. Like, Elon Musk is like, I was watching a video or whatever, and they asked this high schooler about George Washington, and they said, what do you know about George? And he said, well, I know he owned slaves. And then, what the fuck is this? Like, is he talking about a poll? No. He's talking about, like, he watched some video clip or something. Like, what is this guy on about? And it's also like, people love to pretend like, oh, George Washington, he wasn't just a slave owner. He's the first president. As if that's like an accomplishment of like in any moral sense. Revolting against the king because you wanted to be the king? That's a moral achievement now? But again, this is like that American exceptionalism. Well, he did found the country, so therefore he's literally perfect. So, what? What?
More than that, you know, yeah.
Yeah, that is the
and then
woke
they're clapping. Yo, the audience here, man, I don't know if like the clap button turned on. Like usually at these places they have like a sign that says please clap, right? I don't know if like someone accidentally like spilled coffee and clicked the switch or whatever a little early. This is like, you ever watch like concerts or whatever, and like, you know, you love this band or whatever, but they play a song that has like a fake out ending, and then like you can tell all the losers who aren't real fans, they start clapping, right? And then they start playing the real ending, and then they look stupid, you know, and everyone's like laughing at the dummies that started clapping early. That's the vibe I'm getting here anyway.
virus. Exactly. Yeah.
That's the woke mind virus, is thinking George Washington's a slave owner even though he was. That's the woke mind virus.
Slavery is obviously a horrific institution, but we should still know more about George Washington than that.
And by the way,
But first of all, who's we? Second of all, he's not doing a poll. He's not doing a meta-analysis of curricula in this country. Elon Musk and Bill Maher genuinely want you to believe that the only mention of George Washington in the history books of this country is that he owned slaves and nothing else. That's what he wants you to believe. If you go to any school in the U.S. and open any history book and look at any glossary or index or whatever list of presidents, if you go on any of those pages, you will see George Washington, notable facts, owned slaves and nothing else. That's what he wants you to believe. Why? Because you're a fucking idiot. And you're dumb enough to buy what he's selling.
that was practiced all over the world forever, since the beginning of time, by every race, including people of color.
Now, they cut this here. I'm sure that there's more gold in this interview. I'm not going to watch it. I'm just watching a clip that I saw on Twitter. But, like, I mean, wow. I mean, you can probably do a meta-analysis to find the dumbest motherfuckers that have ever been on television. And, like, wow. I mean, I would like to see a tie break from these fellows. Let's just put it that way. You know, when you really think about using, when you look at history, it's like black people own slaves too. And it's like, you know, a black person had like a slave, and so that means it's okay when Washington had a slave, because like a black person had a slave too at some point. Now, did that black person who was Washington's slave have slaves? No, it's just another black person. Which, by the way, I love that move here. That it's like some random black person 500 years ago may have had a slave. Therefore, it's the same thing when we put you in a cage. What? But anyway, and that's the woke mind virus, is like, you know, people learn that George Washington had slaves, and that's actually the woke mind virus is to learn that George Washington had slaves is suppressing free speech, because black people also had slaves, and the woke mind virus, and follow me on Twitter, and anti-America to correct the. I'm gonna listen to that part again.
I mean, you have talked about explain why you don't think. First of all, what is the woke mind virus, and tell me why.
I think we need to be very cautious about anything that is anti-meritocratic.
I love that he mixes up meritocracy with America. Like, that to me, that's some real, like, freedom-loving shit right there. That to me is hilarious. But again, these people are dumb. They're ridiculous. And if you even for a second, I need you to really grasp this. If even for a second you listened to any of this and thought, well, maybe they got a good point, it's over for you. You got to turn back now before it's too late. This is like when you go to the doctor for a routine exam and they find out that you've got a very early stage of cancer. I need you to really take this seriously. And I'm not joking when I say this, by the way. If you listen to something Elon Musk says and for an even fraction of a second think, maybe he's got a good point. Now is the time. Now is the time. You just walked into the doctor's office and you got told you don't have diabetes, but you're pre-diabetic. If you continue eating ketchup every day, you're going to get diabetes. You're going to be disabled for life. Now is the time to turn it back before it's too late. Again, even if you had the wherewithal to not actually fall for their stupid shit, if even for a second you actually thought, maybe they have something interesting to say, and again, you need to do is you got to start reading books now. I'm telling you this. Start on Wikipedia, and it's not a perfect fucking source of information, but start somewhere. Start learning history. Start learning about power. Start learning about hegemony. Start learning about corruption. Start following actual philosophers, thinkers, reading historical figures, because this ain't it. And if you're on this trajectory, you are dumber than dog shit. And again, hey, feel free to stay asleep if you want, but fuck. Anyway, so there's the Elon Musk and Bill Maher interview. I'm sure there's more gold in there, but I'm not going to do the work.